one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Monday, October 31st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is mostly cloudy, 9 degrees. In Smith Falls, it is 12. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. With the possibility of a strike looming, Ontario's education minister is planning to introduce legislation and impose a contract on education support workers to stop them from walking off the job. Sam Laprade says the legislation is in response to a refusal by the Canadian Union of Public Employees to withdraw its intent to strike. Ottawa West Nepean MPP Chandra Pasma tells the Sam Laprade Show the government's move is incredibly disappointing.
They've been incredibly clear about the fact that their backs are against the wall because of the low wages that the government is paying. Their workers are using food banks or working 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. This is simply unsustainable. It's something that we can already see with the worker shortages throughout the system, that our kids aren't getting the supports that they need.
And Pasma says if the government goes ahead with the legislation, the worker shortage will only deepen and the quality of support and services to kids in school will deteriorate. QP is asking for several annual salary increases of 11.7%, and the Ontario government is offering them a new deal that would give 2.5% annual raises to workers making less than $43,000 a year and 1.5% raises for everyone else. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
You'll need the umbrella or perhaps some type of rainproof costume for Halloween tonight. We get into the showers and drizzle around 7 o'clock tonight and continuing overnight. 15 for the guaranteed high. We should stay dry most of the day. 8 for the low. Tomorrow, the 1st of November, showers for the morning, then staying rather cloudy, 15. That's a guaranteed high today, 15.
City News Time, 11:02. At the inquiry into the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act, former Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slowly is being cross-examined by other lawyers looking to prove or disprove his claims in his main testimony. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has the story.
The lawyer for the Ottawa Police Service is the first counsel to question the former police chief. The lawyer is trying to frame Peter Slowly as a chief who was suspicious of his own officials. And while he admits he had lost trust in some of his deputy chiefs at one point, Slowly says it wasn't entirely. Now, Slowly also denies the suggestion that he was trying to deflect blame for the failures of his force in responding to the convoy protest.
You were pretty concerned that you would lose your job and be blamed for what had happened.
Absolutely not, sir.
Okay. And what you were looking for was to blame somebody else.
Absolutely not, sir.
Slowly gave his main testimony Friday, describing disorganization and a lack of communication within the Ottawa Police, but other witnesses had blamed Slowly for failing to coordinate with other forces to get the protest under control. Later this week, we'll be hearing from convoy organizers. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 11:04. A little bit more than 2 weeks left until Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe takes over from outgoing Mayor Jim Watson at Ottawa City Hall. City News reporter Chris Curry is with more on the transition.
1 week ago, Sutcliffe was elected mayor, and now just more than 2 weeks away, his term begins. A very quick turnaround, and one that Watson is hoping to provide as much insight as possible.
Really, a lot of it is just my own experience of what I needed to know before taking over as mayor. A lot of it is administrative in nature, just explaining the structure of our office and so on.
He says Sutcliffe has reached out to all newly elected and re-elected city councillors and has had a chance to speak to them about their priorities for the next 4 years. The mayor-elect says he's working on building out his team so he can hit the ground running. At Ottawa City Hall, Chris Curry's City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, 1 week ago, we were heading to the polls. That feels like about a month ago, but Election Day was 1 week from today, and we know all of those councillors have been elected. We have a new mayor-elect. We wanted to head to College Ward. We're trying to meet all of the councillors representing the different wards in the community, and today we're going to speak with Lane Johnson. Hi, Lane.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
It's my pleasure. Lane, this particular campaign was certainly hard fought on your behalf. Talk to me a little bit about what the campaign was like.
I was busy. Yeah, it was a hard fought campaign. And I think that, that was our strategy right from the beginning, was to come out and demonstrate to the people of College Ward that they could have someone who was going to work hard for them every day. And so to demonstrate that through the campaign, we had, meet and greets almost every other week in the community. We had over 170 volunteers sign up through our website. We were able to connect with, all residents of College Ward at the doors, and then do it again, and then do it again. And that kind of grind, although I had been told, it was going to be a grind and the effort was real. I think we really were able to show up and show off, what College Ward could mean for the next 4 years. And I'm very excited to show up at the council table and demonstrate that same hard work ethic, that same positive approach to city building that I was able to demonstrate during the campaign.
And we know that before you head to the council table, you head to counselor school.
Yes.
Such an important part. I think people get a kick out of that. They don't really understand what that is. Walk us through how you're going to be participating.
Well, we started last week, so we are all being sworn in on November 15th, which is a little sooner than in previous terms of council. They had a bit more of a break between the end of the campaign and getting sworn in. So it is a condensed schedule, but certainly, right off the top, it was the legislative framework, the integrity commissioner, the auditor general, risk, understanding the real nuts and bolts of the responsibility and accountability that you have as a councillor. It's not a small job. You are a creature of the province. You have to execute on those mandates and then continue to remember how cities can make sure that no one's left behind. So we are getting that foundation right now, and then we will be able to layer in staff and other supports over the coming weeks that will help us to really demonstrate, the strength of our team. Any surprises so far, Lane? Well, I think that I'm surprised by the warmth. I think everyone is breathing quite a deep sigh of relief to finally meet each other. I mean, you see an awful lot on social media about one another, but that doesn't really reflect the type of person that is going to show up at the table. So, I think we're all really excited to be around real bodies again, instead of just trying to get our point across through Facebook and Twitter and be able to connect on a personal level. And then, of course, the quality of the city staff, I shouldn't say that's a surprise, but there are very, very strong city staff supports in the clerk's office and council support services that are showing us the way. And so I know we're in very good hands. And I think that's one of the, the things that's most important. I, certainly have worked at the municipal level as a staffer in the past. And I think that connection and that commitment of city staff, I think people do sort of underestimate that they're walking into, a situation where people have dedicated, 10, 20, 30 years of their lives. And they are the experts, right? Council turns over, but those staff are always there and they know those files so intimately. So the relationship you build with staff is so key. Yes, there is so much wisdom in that room already, right? And so if you were to deny that or to imagine that you're going to reinvent it or impress your own XYZ upon it, I think would really do a disservice to the quality of your work. The city of Ottawa, my background's in civic education, right? So I used to run a nonprofit that taught Ottawa City Hall 101, and we were bringing in, different departments and elected officials to sort of peek behind the curtain of what was going on with the city of Ottawa. And so often we can scapegoat, with city staff. And I don't think that that's the right approach. I think, as you say, there is so much experience and they can work with the mandate of the moment, but there is always a wisdom to be built upon. And so to imagine yourself as part of a team right from the get-go. I think that's one of the things that is sort of strange about being elected councillor, is that you have this sort of formal role, and it is a leadership role, but you are within a system. So to be able to be respectful of that push and pull and to be respectful of all those other people pieces of that system that are going to work together with you. I think that will keep me humble and keep me, with my nose to the grindstone, if you will.
And it doesn't mean you don't ask the tough questions, right? So it's this really interesting balance, and I'm so anxious to see how this council all works together. We know that you were endorsed by Horizon Ottawa. Does that endorsement continue? How does that relationship work with Horizon Ottawa now that you're elected, Lane?
Yeah, so I was indeed endorsed by Horizon Ottawa, as well as many other individuals and groups. But I did maintain, and I still maintain, my complete independence. My team members were made up of residents of College Ward. My policy platform was derived by those team members. I have never received any financial support or volunteer support from Horizon Ottawa. And that independence, as you say, will be integral for asking those tough questions. My first commitment as councillor is to the people of College Ward. 52% of the people of College Ward voted for me. That's a tremendous responsibility. And to not lose sight of the priorities that those people at the door set for me, when it comes to safe streets, when it comes to smart development, and when it comes to accountability with our spending and with our relationships with our constituents, that constant communication. These are all the priorities that I intend to bring to my office, and those are going to keep me laser focused. I do believe that we all have an opportunity to, look forward and think about what's next on the oh gosh, I can't make a pun there, on the horizon
right.
for College Ward.
Right.
And it will include, things like housing, of course, deeply important to me, having grown up in a co-op, making sure that transit is actually reliable so that people aren't left out in the cold at the end of a run that never shows up. There's so many aspects of our work that can support everybody where they're at. But certainly that independence, I'm fiercely proud of that, and I will continue to maintain that.
And I mean, all the 24 wards obviously are important. I have a situation where my mom lives in College Ward. So, I'm seeing what's going on there. We know there's been some housing that has been, waiting to be developed for a very long time. The signs have been there. I mean, moving those kinds of things along. We know that, a big apartment building is being built on and just finished on Baseline Road, trying to, sort of use that land around the Queensway Carleton Hospital the best they can. So there's lots of projects. Certainly, you won't be bored, Lane.
No, I won't be bored. And there's new legislation coming through all the time that are going to change the ways that municipalities can approach this work. So making sure that I am constantly communicating to my neighbors about what is possible and what is changing, that will be very important for maintaining trust. I think there is a great opportunity for College Ward to harness the opportunities that come with development. But, mentioning the land around Queensway Carleton, for example, as you say, I mean, that's a lot of green space that is very beloved. So there will be trade-offs and there will be tensions. And I believe, because my background is in that civic education, that the people of College Ward are prepared and able to think about those trade-offs with me. I think that one of the, dangers of keeping people in the dark is that they end up assuming the worst. And so the more transparent we can be, the more present I can be in the ward, the better for the relationship with City Hall.
And of course, you're referred to now as Councillor-elect. Have you tried on the new title of Councillor Johnson? Have you said that to yourself yet? I don't think so by your reaction.
No, I haven't. It's a very strange. I mean, it's a respectful. It's a respectful title, right? So I do appreciate that it's part of a system. It's part of a legacy of a city that's been around for 150 years. It will be something I'll get accustomed to. But I really was campaigning on the idea that I am a neighbor. I'm raising my young children here, and so it is going to be a bit of an adjustment to imagine this title. Yeah.
Well, definitely enjoy the next couple of weeks, because then, of course, if you can believe it, it gets busier, as you know. So enjoy this time, and appreciate your time today, getting to know a little bit about you and a little bit about this ward. I suspect over the next 4 years we'll have many, many conversations about College Ward.
I would be so glad to be on again. I think it's a great opportunity to connect with, listeners across the city, and I appreciate the work you're doing. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Lane Johnson joining us, Councillor-elect for College Ward, soon to be councillor. We look forward to that. Lots of great guests for you today. We're going to be talking about those Halloween safety tips. We want it to be a spooky night, but we want it to be a safe night. Lock it in to Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name is Arkantel and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Halloween, everybody. October 31st. I'm Sam Laprade, and it is the big night. A lot of kids excited about tonight. Certainly this weekend was very busy as well with lots of Halloween celebrations. We wanted to catch up today with Constable Melissa Bouchard, Community Safety Officer with the Russell County OPP. Hi, Constable.
Hello.
Constable, you're in one of my favorite places in the world. That's, of course, Russell County.
That's awesome.
That's where my family's from, so it brings back lots of good memories for me. Listen, it's Halloween, and we want everybody to be spooky and have lots of fun, but we want everyone to get home nice and safe. What are your immediate thoughts in terms of safety tonight?
Yes, absolutely. We all know that it gets dark pretty early now. So I would strongly suggest that if you're going out trick-or-treating with young children, especially, maybe carry glow sticks or flashlights, or even use reflective tapes or stickers on the costumes or the bags that they're going to be carrying. Wear light colors so the kids can see others, but also motorists can see them while they're crossing the street. Those are the main ones, especially at dark. It's important to trick-or-treat not alone, so with an adult or with other friends, never alone. also, this is more or less for the motorists to be careful. There's going to be a lot of children out tonight. It's going to be dark. So just be mindful that there's going to be children excited everywhere and might cross without looking both ways. But same rules apply to the pedestrians. It's important that they look both ways, that they try to cross the streets where they're at the corner streets or at a crosswalk if possible. And to make sure that when they cross that it's safe to do so.
For sure.
What else here? There's so many that I have in mind here, but I'm trying to go with the top ones.
Well, I think too, just as you were mentioning sort of that crossing, we used to just go down one side of the street and then we would cross safely and go down the other side. A lot of kids, I think, are tempted when there's decorations and all of that to scoot across, to the neighbors across the street so that they can get some goodies across the street. But important to remind them to stay to one side of the road. And I often think as well in my neighborhood, in particular, there's lots of cars that park on the street, and those little ones darting out from behind those parked cars can be a bit frightening as well.
Yes, that's right. So it's important for pedestrians to be looking around, but also the motorists to drive slowly and very carefully. Hence why we ask that trick-or-treaters try to wear light colors. So it reflects off the headlights of the vehicles driving around at night. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And especially on a Monday night, right? We have to just even, we go about and we're busy trying to get places, but the bottom line is, it's about safety tonight. The other one that the other sort of idea that I wanted to bring up to you tonight is, the fact that there's a lot of older kids that go out as well. And we have to remember that sometimes, they might be with adults or may not be with adults, and making sure that we're keeping an eye on them.
Yes, no, that's it. So there's going to be children with other children, might not be adults. So it's important for them to just be aware that if they're trick-or-treating with just their friends, might not be the best idea to enter the residences to grab the treats, to stay outside, just so at least they're being seen by other people trick-or-treating in the area, just for their safety, right? We never know. And same thing for other people within their houses giving out the treats. It's okay to not have people come into their houses. Most people I've seen are giving out treats out from their porches, which I still find is the best thing that they can do in a well-lit area, preferably, for sure. So they can be visible at all times.
And certainly a tradition in our house. My daughter's a little bit older now, so I think this is the first year she's not going to be going out. We're a bit sad about that, but at the same time, a tradition we used to have is she would usually take a pillowcase or something to collect all her candy, and we would pour all that candy out on the floor and take a good look at everything. Of course, she would be telling me all the things I wasn't allowed to eat. But more importantly, it's about safety there too, right, Constable?
That's correct. So whether it's allergies, right? Myself, I'm allergic to peanuts. So when I was younger, my parents would go through every chocolate bar and those big peanuts that we used to get when we trick-or-treated to take them all out. But also for, like it can be either to look for drugs, or it can be little objects that are not supposed to be found in candy, right? So it's important for adults to just spot-proof, I guess, the pillowcases or the bags or the baskets at the end of the evening, just to make sure that themselves and the kids are actually eating something.
For sure.
Somewhat okay.
A rule in our house, too, is it had to be commercially wrapped. It had to be something that was, from a store as well, not anything that was loose.
No, that's fine too. I do agree with you on that one. If it's sealed, then perfect. But if it looks open, for sure that there's people that do these little bags there, the surprise bags. There's nothing wrong with that as long as the candy is wrapped separate, like in little wrappers. Yep. But if they're not, it's not recommended, right? It's better to be safe than sorry.
I just saw from Ottawa Police Service that there has been 10 charges over the weekend for impaired driving. And there might be some people heading to a Halloween party, even though it's on a Monday night tonight, and partaking in alcohol. I don't know what the numbers out of the Russell County OPP are, but, so disappointing to see 10 charges, because when we know there's 10 charges, we know there's a lot more people that partaked and they just didn't get caught this time. Talk a little bit about, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but drinking and driving and when it comes to Halloween night.
Yeah, so for sure there's going to be parties, whether we like it or not, the parties especially occurred over the weekend, but for sure there's probably going to be some tonight. We want to remind people, again, hence why all the safety tips that I was giving prior to now is to be seen, to not be alone, to be aware of your surroundings, whether you're on foot or in a vehicle. I don't have specific statistics at this time for Russell County. However, we do have impairs, right? It's everywhere. And there's a federal stat that came out, that they say that there's 1 person on 5 driving while impaired, right? So that's still a big stat. So it's still 20% of the population. So it's out there, whether it's alcohol or drugs. Be careful. And if you see anything suspicious, you see someone acting disorderly, if you think they're intoxicated or driving while intoxicated, it's important to call 911.
I've got to be honest with you, I cannot believe it's that many people choose to get behind the wheel. I lost somebody about 20 years ago to drinking and driving, and I'm still not over it 2 decades later. But it's, it just is... It boils my blood, to be honest with you, that people still decide to make that choice with all the other choices that there are and other ways to get home, especially now with Uber and now all the other options that are out there, Constable. It just makes me crazy that it's still an issue.
Yeah, it is still an issue. Hence why we have the RIDE programs, where we Rid Impaired Driving Everywhere programs, where we are stationary and we do the RIDE checks, right, to just verify the soberness of the motorist. So we try to be as present as we can, and listen, we're doing our best to try to lower this stuff. We try to do prevention within our communities as well. People are receptive with it, but it's still out there. Hence why we just want everyone to be safe.
Well, please send all of our thanks to everybody at the Russell County OPP detachment, and keep safe for all of you as well, okay?
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Appreciate your time today. Constable Melissa Bouchard, she's the Community Safety Officer for Russell County OPP, and we know all of those law enforcement agencies will be out tonight making sure that everybody is nice and safe. And please, I'm begging you, please don't drink and drive. The consequences are absolutely horrific. We want everyone to stay safe tonight. We want you to go home to your family. We want all those little ones to go home excitedly to their family. And we want all those mums and dads to be eating those Reese's PC cups. So definitely, we want everyone to definitely be happy tonight in terms of Halloween. So lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Little brown girl, hey, I'm Picasso Win Von Teef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Monday, October 31st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, 11 degrees. In Smith Falls, it is 13. And here's what's making news this hour. Former Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slowly says he took a more direct role in the police response to the truck convoy protest outside of the chain of command after he lost some degree of trust in his deputy chiefs. Slowly's testimony at the Public Order Emergency Commission continues today as part of the inquiry into the Trudeau government's use of the Emergencies Act after weeks of protest gridlocked Ottawa last winter. Slowly has been repeatedly accused of creating confusion and dysfunction in the ranks of the Ottawa police during the protest by not abiding by the chain of command. But he says he was concerned after his deputies appointed a new events commander without informing him. Local OPP have located and recovered 2 bodies from the Muskrat Lake, which is east of Pembroke. The Upper Ottawa Valley OPP says they do not suspect any foul play, and the identities of the deceased have not yet been released. Police are still at the scene and investigating the incident. And the transition period from outgoing Mayor Jim Watson to incoming Mayor Mark Sutcliffe is underway. The pair met this morning to go over some of the administrative duties and more that comes with holding the top job in the city. Mark Sutcliffe says he is in the process of reaching out to all the new and re-elected councillors to learn about their priorities for their awards. The new term of council kicks off in about 2 weeks. City News time is 11:31. I am Damilola Unime. And for news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, every single time I have a conversation with Cindy Blackstock, I walk away more informed and enlightened in terms of what's happening in this country. And today I know will be no different. Executive Director of First Nations Child and Family Caring Society. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
Cindy, there have been some developments in terms of the monies for Indigenous people in this country. Walk us through walk us through, first of all, for those that aren't familiar with what the plan was.
Okay, so the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal ordered $40,000 per victim of Canada's discrimination. And what I mean by that is that First Nations families and their children were denied public services that were available to everyone else. And the result of that, Sam, was thousands of unnecessary family separations because families were denied family support services in the wake of the residential schools. We had children that were denied basics like feeding tubes and wheelchairs and learning assistance that otherwise would have been available to them. And tragically, we even had some children die in ways that were linked to that discrimination. The tribunal in 2019 said, all we can award is a maximum of $40,000. And Canada, you need to pay that. Canada didn't pay it. They appealed it to the federal court. They lost there, and then they filed another appeal. And on the side, the Prime Minister started saying the reason we're not paying the Human Rights Tribunal compensation is because we want to give people more through this class action. And what turned out is that some people will get more, and that's a good thing through this class action. But it turned out that some children in care and some adults would see their $40,000 entitlement go down to zero, and others would get less, and still others, it's really unclear what they're going to get. And we said that wasn't the deal. You've been legally ordered to pay the $40,000 in compensation. You owe it to these victims to do so.
Can I ask, Cindy, is any of this money for any estates, or is this only for people that are residing in Canada at this point?
It's a really good question, Sam. And what some of your listeners may not understand is that, you know, the children in the unmarked graves, they were actually exempt from any compensation in the Indian Residential Schools Agreement. I mean, the worst affected were left out of that agreement. And so we made sure that estates of both children and families were included in the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal compensation. And under the final settlement agreement, children's estates would be compensated. So children like Tina Fontaine, for example, her estate would get $40,000. But the parents' estates would not be compensated. And that was a problem because we fought for parental estates because, as many of your listeners would know, is that we leave the money for the children. So this would have been a little bit of help to children who were left behind by a family member who tragically passed away too soon.
And where are we today, Cindy?
Well, the Government of Canada still holds that legal obligation to pay the Human Rights Tribunal compensation. That's what the tribunal said. And hopefully they're going to fix that class action so that the Prime Minister's promise is really observed, that $40,000 is the floor. And that they build up and make people's lives better than that. That's really what class action should do. They shouldn't erase human rights that children have already won.
And don't misunderstand what I'm going to say, but $40,000, I mean, I realize the value of a dollar, but for what these families and these people have gone through, $40,000, I mean, it's not a lot of money, really, Cindy.
It's not. And that's where that figure of $20 billion, like it's a gobsmacking big number, right? And when you see that, you think, oh my God, you know, like that's a huge number. And it is. But what it represents at an individual level is just how many kids Canada hurt. We're talking about, for children in care, about 110,000 kids were removed from their families unnecessarily because of Canada's discriminatory treatment. That's like a town that's bigger than where I grew up in Prince George, BC, right, where every person would be removed. It's because they hurt so many people that number is so big. But at an individual level, you're right on the money, Sam, is such a small amount of money given the harms that these children and families experience.
Cindy, how do you keep going? I've always wanted to ask you that. Like every time I talk to you, I don't know how you do it. You seem to have more energy, but the news isn't always great. I've always been curious how you keep your own hope alive.
Well, my own hope alive is like when I meet these kids and their families and their community members and the leaders who are working on this. I mean, who could ever give up on them, right? They're beautiful children and they deserve the same opportunity. And also, I need to say a big shout out to the non-Indigenous population, the folks who are wearing their orange shirts, who are pressing their politicians to implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. That's the kind of stuff that makes hope real for me. It makes it more than just an illusion. It actually puts some legs under it. And all of us should be, doing those same actions right now. We need to be pressing the government to pay that human rights compensation, but to even do more than that for kids. And most importantly, the government needs to take measures to stop its ongoing discrimination and make sure it never does this again.
Have you had audience with the Prime Minister just by yourself, Cindy? Have you ever just sat down with the Prime Minister and gave him an account of what this is like and holding up all of this and the pressure that this puts on the Indigenous communities?
No, I've never spoken to the Prime Minister. I have spoken to prior Prime Ministers, but not to this Prime Minister.
Well, let's pretend he's listening right now, Cindy. What would you say to Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, and I would say, this can be done really, really well and can be done in a way that really honors these children and these families and sets the government up for success and sets these kids up for success. Because when kids win, the government does too. And that means obeying the legal orders, dropping that appeal at the Federal Court of Appeal. It means fixing that class action so that those victims receive the compensation they need. And it means acting on the evidence-based and community-driven solutions to make sure that the discrimination in Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principle never happens again. And that we also move on things like clean water, et cetera. All of these things are doable. We just need to get down to work to do them. The solutions are right there in front of us.
I mean, even just from my role here, obviously following the story, it just seems all of these barriers, it just adds to the pain.
It does. It does. For the individual victims, it's just, I don't know how you even wrap words around it, right? About seeing a delay that may make sense bureaucratically or politically, but it, on a personal level, it just adds to the injustice of everything. And one of the things that I think all non-Indigenous Canadians need to know is that Canada has really fought tooth and nail on all of these legal orders. We've had over 30 legal orders, Sam, from the tribunal, but also from the federal court and the Federal Court of Appeal. Canada has lost every single one of them except for one decision that was overturned on appeal. So all the merits of their legal case is just terrible. So why don't they just stop and do the right thing?
Well, this is what I don't understand, to be honest with you, Cindy, is why, if you're the Prime Minister of this country, you've been given this mandate, you're working with the NDP, you don't have a majority, you can get this done. Why not be the Prime Minister that moves the needle on this? This is the part I don't understand. Why not be the Prime Minister that takes this to the next level? And we know money isn't going to be the answer. It's not like you're going to hand somebody $40,000 and all the pain goes away.
No.
But why not make the step and show leadership and actually do something in this country?
Yeah, he said those kinds of things, and now it's time to do them. And you know, when I talk to victims, it's like the residential school survivors, or the 60 Scoop survivors, or even the ones who were discriminated by this government and the governments before. They all say the same thing: is the money is never going to make up for my lost childhood, or in some cases, the lost life of my loved one. But what helps us feel a little better is knowing that you're not going to do this again. And that to me is something that the Prime Minister and all of us in Canada owe these victims, is to stop the injustices one after another. Not only is that better for First Nations people, it's way better for the government too, because what we know is when you invest in children, you usually save about $18 downstream. There's not a better investment out there than investing in kids. And we can, hopefully have a country where every kid is treated fairly. It's really just within our grasp. We just need to do it.
You mentioned water, and this has always been, obviously top of mind for anybody that realizes in this country there are people living in Canada that don't have access to clean water, and for years, which I just can't get my head wrapped around. Where does that file stand, Cindy?
Well, there's been, some communities have gotten clean drinking water, but what I always say is, why is this thing happening at such a glacial pace? I hear a lot of reasons like we've done more than any other government before us. And this isn't just this government, it's once before. They have the same speech. It's complex, change can't happen overnight, all those things. And yet the space station, Population 6, has clean drinking water and broadband access. Like, we actually can do this stuff. Governments can do complex things. They do it every day. We saw it in COVID-19 with the CERB checks. It really gets down to a question of political motivation. And here's where the listeners come in. Because in 2021, when everyone saw the horrible images of the children in unmarked graves, and they got out there in orange shirts and they got a hold of their politicians and they said, enough of this nonsense. You guys need to get these TRC calls to action implemented. More calls to action were implemented in the 6 weeks after the discovery of the children in unmarked graves and then in the previous 6 years. So when we pay attention, things get done.
Well, I think you just ask any Canadian every time they turn on their tap, if nothing came out, would they be upset?
Yeah, and we see that just even with storms or natural disasters, how disruptive that is in the lives of families, and how families just even after a few days are feeling the stress. Imagine if you're a First Nations family and, this is going on for decades and you're hearing these speeches of, well, you should be grateful we're working so hard on this. Well, no, this is a basic human right in a country that has got more clean water than I think anywhere else in the world.
Once again, always learn something from you, Cindy. Thanks for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Cindy Blackstock joining us, Executive Director for First Nations Child and Family Caring Society. If this is important to you, reach out. Reach out to the Prime Minister and say, is this going to be fixed in good time, which is now? Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 1310 a.m.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Arcanta and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, it's Halloween, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. Maybe you're enjoying some festivities over your lunch hour coming up, or maybe you're going to be taking those little goblins out for trick-or-treating tonight. We wanted to check in with David Phillips today, senior climatologist with Environment Canada, about the weather. Hi, David.
Hi, Sam. You know, this day in the weather office is perhaps the busiest in terms of, calls, people wanting to know, children, parents, just absolutely want to know by an hour-by-hour basis as to what the weather is going to be. So it's an important day to get it right, and it looks, I think, pretty good in the Ottawa area.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good news. So let's talk a little bit about how it breaks down tonight, and not only in Ottawa, but in the Valley as well.
Well, if we take a look, it's raining over many parts of Ontario right now, Toronto area and down to Sarnia, and it's even, there's a few showers in the Kawarth area, Peterborough, but not Trenton or not in Kingston. Now, that rain is coming, but it's kind of I think by the time trick-or-treating is over, you might see a chance of a shower, a little bit of drizzle. But from a temperature point of view, I mean, when I looked at the past, 70 Halloweens in Ottawa, typically precipitation occurs on half of them. About 20% have snow, and then half have either rain or snow. But also, nearly almost 40 to 45% have freezing temperatures. So we're certainly not going to see the freezing temperatures. We might see one of the warmest Halloweens in the last 10 years. I'm guessing maybe 10 degrees, about 7, 8 o'clock. Winds are going to be light, so that's not going to be an issue. Kids are not going to be blown around by the winds. Now, there is the chance that showers will come in, but I think, the earliest we are stating about 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the trick-or-treating might be winding up by that time, and it may just be later. It may be sort of 10 to midnight when, hey, kids are in sorting out their candy and not having to be outside. So overall, given what you've seen in the past in Ottawa and the Ottawa Valley, I think it's a pretty positive kind of a Halloween night, and it sort of is really what October has been in terms of temperatures and precipitation has been down. So my sense is this will come out to be one of the better ones when we look at Halloweens of the past.
Well, that's fantastic. As a little trick-or-treater when I was a kid in Deep River, I used to have to layer into a snowsuit and then look somewhat, cute in my costume, which didn't really work, David.
No, I mean, you look like the Michelin Man. I mean,
Exactly.
You had a costume over some winter clothes, but that won't be the issue at all. I think that it's a matter of just something light underneath, wear the costume, and then get from one place to the other. Move quickly and just bring in all the hordes of goodies.
Fantastic. When you look back to when you were younger, what did you dress up as? Do you remember, David?
Well, I kind of, I live in a condo now, and I really miss the fact that we don't have trick-or-treaters come to our building. Mm. But as a kid, I used to strategize, Sam. I wanted to be something that didn't weigh me down. Right. It allowed me to move quickly from house to house and not slow it. So I used to dress up, and it was not that imaginative. It was just like I dress up as a hockey player, but without the skates.
There you go.
And no stick. I would just have a bag, and a real long, big bag. So, boy, I was very efficient but then typically I got home, I sorted the candy, and I don't necessarily think that I ever ate it after that.
That's funny. I wonder if anyone's going as David Phillips tonight.
Oh, I don't know.
That would be great. David Phillips, senior climatologist. That would be a great costume. That'd be awesome.
Well, I'm not sure. You'd have to have a little hat that had a propeller on the top that catch the wind, and maybe a rain gauge in the hand. No. That would slow you down. Don't go with me.
I love it. David, you're so kind to always join us here. I know how busy it is for you today. Thanks for spending time with us on this spooky Halloween on City News.
Thank you, Sam. Bye-bye now.
Always a pleasure. David Phillips, senior climatologist with Environment Canada. And of course, we hope the weather is nice, not only here in Ottawa, of course, but into the valley. We hope it's really nice in beautiful Orleans. And we'd like to welcome Luc Delaurier. Hi, Luc.
Hey, good afternoon. Good morning.
Luc, you've done some pretty awesome things in terms of Halloween. Tell us what you've done in Orleans.
We have what we call the Dean Court Halloween haunt. The front of the property has a pirate ship and sort of a Tortuga face on it beside it. So it's sort of the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. It's a walkthrough haunt. The next section you come into is ghouls and skeletons, zombies. As you continue walking through, we have in our garage a whole section where there's a bunch of guys getting electrocuted and electrical panels just zapping away, which scares some of the kids, but it's fun to see. As you make your way through up to the front door, there's a whole witch's house has been set up. It's quite elaborate. We've increased on that one this year.
Wow.
And then as you continue walking through, I have connected my house to my neighbors. My neighbors have been well enough to allow us to expand onto their property. There's a crazy corridor that brings you out to their house. And then as you walk by, there's a huge cemetery on the way out of the property.
Wow. Luc, have you always been a big Halloween guy?
I've been, I think this is my 28th or 29th year doing decorations on our property. It's grown from a little setup to a very large setup, and it's become a community event, and we raise funds for CHEO, which is a great thing.
Oh, I love that so much. So where are you located?
We're located at the 662 Dean Court Crescent in Orleans, right in front of the Fallingbrook Elementary School.
Fantastic. And are people still welcome to come tonight if they can make it?
Certainly are. We've been open. We were open Saturday, Sunday, and tonight. So it's tonight's the big night, obviously, because we're giving out candy tonight. So we anticipate that based on previous years, we'll probably see 500-600 kids come through, plus parents and so on. So it'll be a busy night as long as the weather cooperates with us.
Wow. And all of the proceeds to CHEO, that's very kind of you. Do you have a connection to CHEO?
I do, but my daughter works at CHEO as a child life specialist. But the reality is that it's a Halloween event, which is for the kids. Obviously, there's big kids like myself. But at the end of the day, it seems to work well together. Kids and supporting kids and what they do. So CHEO does a great job for that. So it's sort of a natural fit to have them as being someone that we donate to.
And Luke, are you getting dressed up tonight?
I am. I have a steampunk outfit that I've been wearing for the last 3 Halloweens and bought more things to add on to it.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And your neighbors, it sounds like they've gotten into the spirit as well.
My next door neighbors have been very good. As I said, they've allowed me to expand, so they're happy. The other neighbors, most of my other neighbors appreciate it as well. They may not appreciate the cost of the candy they've got to give out, but I think they appreciate the effort for the community. And the raising of funds for CHEO. I think everyone likes it.
That's fantastic. So what time would people start arriving, Luke, if somebody's listening right now and they're like, oh, we want to work this into our celebrations tonight? How would they know what time to sort of get going?
Well, we're on Halloween Day, we're typically open at around 4:30 and we go till 9. What typically happens is people start usually showing up around 5. It's a lot spookier, obviously, at nighttime when it's dark. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for the thrills of the nighttime with the lights and the music synchronized going on, that's when it's best. But what happens is earlier on we get sometimes more younger kids because it's not as dark and as spooky, so it's easier to walk through with the small ones. Then again, we get teenagers that come through and they're scared to the bejesus, and some of them don't come through. They don't, I'm not going through. That's it. You guys can go. I'm not. I'm just standing here.
Well, that's fun. Well, thank you so much for creating that for the community, and obviously the proceeds to CHEO is just the bonus. We really appreciate everything you're doing. Luke DeLaurie joining us, talking about that Halloween pirate ship display, and I feel like you're going to make a lot of memories tonight, Luke.
I'm sure we will.
That's fantastic. Well, of course, it's Halloween. It's a little spooky. It's a little fun here on City News. Well, we're going to go out with a little Monster Mash here on City News.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. He did the mash. It caught on in a flash. He did the mash. He did the monster mash.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Hey, I'm Picasso Win Von Teef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Monday, October 31st. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is 11 degrees. In Smith Falls, it is 13. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. With the strike deadline looming, Education Minister Stephen Lecce is set to introduce a back-to-school legislation and impose a contract on education support workers, a move that Chandra Pasma, MPP for the Ottawa South Nepean, an NDP educator critic tells City News will only cause more harm than good for kids in school.
Many of our EAs are supporting some of our kids who have the greatest accessibility needs and some of the greatest challenges in schools. So some of them are being hit, kicked, bitten on a daily basis, but they're coming in and they're providing these supports to our kids day in and day out because they really care about them.
Pasma says it is disappointing that the government has refused to acknowledge how fundamental QP support workers are to kids' well-being and schools functioning properly. QP workers are seeking several salary increases of 11.7%. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
We should stay dry through most of the day. We'll get into the wet weather. Unfortunately, bad timing for the trick-or-treaters around 7 o'clock tonight. And that will be with us on and off even through the overnight. 15, the guaranteed high, 8 for the low. Tomorrow, the 1st of November, showers for the morning and staying rather cloudy, 15. That's the guaranteed high today, 15.
City News time is 12:02. Former Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slowly is being cross-examined at the public inquiry investigating the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act to clear out the convoy protests. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has the story.
Slowly is facing questioning right now from the lawyer for the Ottawa Police Service, who's trying to highlight the former Ottawa chief's trust issues with officials in his own force. Slowly said he had to take a more active role because at one point he did lose some trust in his deputy chiefs. The lawyer appears to also suggest that Slowly wants to blame his then deputy chief of intelligence, Steve Bell, for not being prepared for the convoy protest.
You at some point decided that you could blame Deputy Chief Bell at the time for not planning for this event.
That is absolutely incorrect, sir, and I really take offense to that notion. Thank you.
He also questioned him about having access to OPP intelligence reports ahead of the convoy and yet was still asking for them well into the protest. Many witnesses blame Slowly for a lack of coordination to deal with the protest, but he's focused on the disorganization and a lack of communication within the Ottawa Police. Slowly resigned a day after the Emergencies Act was invoked. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And the transition at Ottawa City Hall is in full swing as the outgoing mayor prepares the mayor-elect for his new post. City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
Jim Watson and Mark Sutcliffe going over some of the administrative duties and tasks that comes with being the mayor of Ottawa. The outgoing mayor says he's confident that the newly elected man to succeed him will do just fine.
You know, looking at some of the important issues that are coming forward, I think Mark is very, very well versed on these big issues. He's been covering them as a journalist. He knows them certainly through the election campaign. So it's a lot of the nuts and bolts to make sure that you can hit the ground running on November 15th.
The process of reaching out to all new councillors and re-elected councillors has been done, along with those one-on-one conversations that show their priorities for their wards. Sutcliffe says he's building out his team and will be ready to go on November 15th. At Ottawa City Hall, Chris Curries, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's Lunch with Sam, and who's at the table today? Sherilyn Starkey, social media expert and host of the 50 Women Over 50 podcast. Hi, Sherilyn. How are you?
Hi, Sam.
Thanks for joining us for lunch, and you're joined by Alex Cullen, former city councillor. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Glad to be here.
Lots to talk about today. Let's talk a little bit about what's on the minds of a lot of parents right now. Ontario's Education Minister Stephen Lecce plans to preemptively table back to work legislation to avert a looming strike this week by education support workers across Ontario. What are your initial thoughts here, Sherilyn?
Well, I mean, nobody wants the kids out of school again, right? We've just, got them back in. This directly impacts my grandchildren, actually. And we don't want to see the kids out of school again. So, but people do have a right to strike. And that's why we have unions in this country. So it's a bit of six of one, half dozen of the other. If it was down to me, I would say let's go to binding arbitration. The parties are just so far apart, and nobody seems to want to make any serious move towards the center here. And so maybe the best thing to do is just to skip all these shenanigans and go straight to an arbitrator and get this deal solved.
Are you for skipping shenanigans, Mr. Cullen?
Well, I do agree that binding arbitration is the route to go, and hopefully the legislation that they're talking about, it's interesting they call it back to work because they are at work. The strike call hasn't happened yet, but even so, here's the government using its legislative power, its employer in this situation, to force workers to go to work at wages that are falling behind in terms of inflation. There has to be that binding arbitration element. If there is not, if it's simple legislation and imposing a 2 or 3% wage increase, then the government's going to be in trouble because other governments have tried to do this and have been found unconstitutional. I mean, the point's been made. Unions are illegal in this country. Collective bargaining is a right. No one likes strikes. That's why we have real life bargaining. But here's a government sitting on $40 billion worth of unspent money, and yet they are insisting that these educational workers, which are at the low end of the scale, fall behind in terms of inflation. So it's a dog's breakfast. The government's bullying here. If there is binding arbitration, great, then it'll be solved in another forum. If there isn't, then there's going to be more trouble.
I don't know about you, Sherilyn. Certainly when I visited my daughter's school, I mean, she's older now, but, I would look at education assistants and custodian staff and, all of those education workers that, give of themselves. And certainly the what they're being paid is in some ways below what they can actually live on. I really respect the work that they do. So this is a very challenging discussion because we know, yes, of course, this is about money, but some of it is not even about money at all.
Well, I have a daughter who's a teacher, and she tells me that if the union gets everything that they ask for, that these early childhood education teachers and support staff are going to be earning almost as much as she is, having done several years of university and gotten a degree and then being a teacher. So, yes, I've had my lean days in my life, and everyone deserves to have a living wage.
But that's why I say we need binding arbitration here to make a deal, go down the center, and find a way through this.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is politicking, Alex?
Oh, it very definitely is. I mean, no parent wants the kids out, but as usual, the kids end up being the pawns in the exercise here. But there are limits to the government's ability to legislate. There was a court case that went to the Supreme Court in British Columbia where the government, this is some years ago, had legislated teachers back to work. They were taken to the court, and the court found that no, you could not impose the employer's end of a deal through the legislation. So there are limits to what the government can do here. But for the immediate, though, people go to work, and the kids go to school, and this thing will be duked out in the courts. That's why I am hoping that there's a sensible binding arbitration route, because that is the real alternative. In unions where there are essential services, and teachers are not considered essential, but fire, police, paramedics, binding arbitrations is the route that's used to avoid strikes. But for the rest of the world, this is a contest between labor and management, and this is where the government has an unfair advantage because it can pass a law. Mm-hmm. So politics, you bet there's politics here. But we'll see how it sorts out. If there is binding arbitration, then people will live with the results. It's just that this not letting the process work is problematic, and particularly with this government.
Well, we know that these talks have been going for a very long time, and hopefully there is a resolution, not only for the workers, obviously, but for parents and teachers. This has certainly been an interesting time in terms of the Emergencies Act inquiry. It has been going for a number of weeks now. 65 people in total right now on the docket. We know this week will be decided whether Premier Ford and Sylvia Jones, at the time Solicitor General for the province, will be appearing as well. What do you think about the people that we've seen so far that have testified, Sherry Lynn, in terms of, are we anywhere closer to an answer whether we needed that Emergency Act or not?
Oh, I think it's clear that, we probably didn't need that act, but it's hard not to feel for Chief Slowly when he was testifying there on Friday. He's got very emotional, and I think, a lot of this centers on him and his leadership, and I do feel for him because the reason they hired him was they wanted a softer approach to policing in the wake of Black Lives Matter, and was his mandate. And then it turns out, we don't like this softer approach after all. We like a much tougher approach. And so, he cried in his testimony on Friday, and you can't get much softer than that, right? So I feel like there's a lot of finger pointing going on. They're trying to heap as much of the blame on Slowly as possible, but he's just being who he is and what they wanted him for. And it doesn't really seem fair to me that he is being made the scapegoat for what happened in downtown last winter, when it was a much more complicated problem than him.
Alex, what do you think regarding former Chief's testimony in the last couple of days?
Well, it's an unfortunate situation. There clearly was problems within OPS, and Slowly has referred to it, and problems with the ministry, the provincial ministry as well. I think in the end, the initial argument, I think, is that OPS had the ability to deal with it. It got out of hand. They could not. And in the end, the Emergency Act was invoked. And I think most people understand it. If it had been handled properly at the beginning, the likelihood would have been that we wouldn't have needed the Emergency Act. But in the end, that's what was used to clean it up. And I think most people are happy that it was cleaned up. So this exercise is a required exercise, an accountability exercise. But Diane Deans did talk about, in her testimony, about the insurrection. This is the former chair of the Police Services Board at the time, but insurrection in the ranks. And it's becoming clear that there was all kinds of difficulty within OPS that hampered their ability to respond to this situation, which they misjudged and ended up having a much bigger mess than they started with, that they thought they would have. So lessons learned in all of this. I mean, we've had demonstrations before. We're going to have demonstrations again. Will we ever see Wellington come back to as a public thoroughfare? I don't think so. And the other point, this is very interesting, about Doug Ford's refusal to testify. There is some talk that he was, or people in his office were talking to the convoy processors in the lead-up. Well, we don't know that, but we do know the Prime Minister's coming to testify, and he signed up for that. Well, if the Prime Minister of Canada can come, why can't the Premier of Ontario come? Let's hear his side of the story.
It's going to be interesting for sure. We're going to be watching that very closely. Of course, lunch is served here on City News. Alex Cullen, Sherry Lynn Starkey is going to come back. We hope you come back too on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
We were born in Canada. We spoke English. On the streets, we weren't welcome. But on the field, we were the Asahi. Vancouver's champions. Everyone cheered for us. Our people had a voice. Then Canada declared war on Japan. They took us from our homes, called us enemies, forced us into camps. But we brought the game with us. Baseball helped get us through the internment.
The Vancouver Asahi were among the 22,000 Japanese Canadians interned during the Second World War. The team never played another game.
Hi, my name is Arkantel and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back at the lunch table with Sherry Lynn Starkey, social media expert and host of the 50 Women Over 50 podcast, and Alex Cullen, of course, former city councillor. Lots to talk about today at lunch. Let's talk a little bit about the cost of living or the cost of lunch today. Alex, certainly when you go and buy groceries, I'm sure you can notice the change in price.
Oh, absolutely. we were looking earlier at the year at inflation running just over 7%. Has come down somewhat, but you're also seeing the Bank of Canada jack up its interest rates as a means of trying to squeeze on inflation. So, but that carries with it the risk of a recession, because that's how you squeeze out inflation. It's a rather cruel process, and it's not fun. And it's showing up. I mean, you see today with the government trying to hold the line on its dealings with the various federations in education, and I guess the cascade effect that if one union gets cost of living, then everyone will want cost of living. But if you don't get cost of living, how do you make ends meet? So it's a challenge. I think we're going to weather the storm, but because the interest rates have been going up, this inflation is not going to be sustained. But it does cause some difficult times.
For sure. It certainly will not be fun, as Alex said. Sherry Lynn, what are you seeing? You work with so many different groups. Are they feeling the pinch as well?
Well, I think we're just at the thin end of the wedge on this. So I kind of, how do I feel? I feel like cold fear about what we're about to embark on, or we're at the very beginning stages of. I am worried that we might go into a global depression, much more, more so than a recession, with what's going on in the world right now, with all the political unrest in Europe, with, it just takes one Western economy to default, and the rest of us will be dragged down with it. And I'm very, very worried for the young people. I mean, they've had to put up with so much in their very short lives already, and I don't see a lot of hope in the future for the economy. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. This is one of the things where I really hope I'm wrong, but I am very, very worried.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much. We know Elon Musk carried a sink into Twitter headquarters because he wanted it all to sink in. Has it sunk in for you yet, Alex, that Elon Musk has taken over this social media platform, and any concerns about this move?
Well, there's a lot of nervousness on Twitter. It's interesting, just on my Twitter feed, people reacting, the notion that for verification there may be a charge. People are looking at alternatives. I think you have to give some rope here, see what Elon Musk does. I mean, he has invested a lot of money into this. I don't think he wants to kill Twitter. People are definitely nervous, but all these things in the social media high tech world, they have short shelf lives. I mean, Facebook is no longer the growing the big power that it was. Twitter may have peaked. It remains to be seen. So we'll have to see what he does with it. Some of the things are being rumored don't sound great, but then again, you don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg here. I mean, he put a lot of money into this. So I'm not sure what's going to happen next, and I'm going to keep my powder dry until I see what happens.
Sherry Lynn, we know some of the executives that were let go have landed very softly on a bed of money. Was that surprising to you that he let so many people go so quickly?
No, he's a disruptor. He didn't buy it to keep it ticking along the way it always run. He bought it because he didn't like the way that Twitter was being run, and so he wanted to go in there and make some changes. But like Alex was saying, I think that, again, we're on the cusp of some major, major change in social media. And yes, Twitter is going to change fundamentally, but I think the way we use social media is going to change a lot over the next 3 years. With the downturn in the economy, it's the first time these tech companies have really had any kind of setback in earnings, and they're all going to be tightening their belts, and they're all going to be looking to make efficiencies and to raise revenues. So, maybe the freemium model is going to go away altogether, or maybe, there's going to be some innovation for advertisers and sponsors and stuff that we haven't yet seen. But I'm really watching with a lot of interest. And of course, the other thing with Elon Musk is the fact that the second largest ownership group is in Saudi Arabia ownership, and that is quite a worry, when you get those kinds of states involved in controlling media and our ability to exercise free speech.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
As a matter of fact, Saudi Arabia has just imprisoned somebody for tweeting when he lived outside of Saudi Arabia. Now he went to visit, and they put him in prison for what he tweeted. So you do worry about freedom of speech and the ability to communicate. And then there's all the bots that are there and the hate that sometimes you find on Twitter. So it's a bit of a complicated mess, and I'm not sure what his game plan is and how he thinks he's going to get ahead. But as I say, you don't kill the golden goose. That's $40 billion is a lot of money to lose.
Mm-hmm, for sure, absolutely. Well, listen, let's end on a little bit of a fun note. Today, of course, is Halloween. Alex Cullen, do you get into Halloween?
You bet. I've got a gruel and a kayak sitting on my front lawn. I've got pumpkins already carved. We expect to have about maybe 60 kids, 80 kids come by our house. So we're hoping. I mean, it's really the first Halloween post-COVID, so it remains to be seen how many kids will come out. And of course, it's going to be wet at 8 o'clock, but hey, what's a Halloween without some dampness? But yeah, we're into it. It's fun. We had the grandkids over yesterday in their costumes, and there was a zombie wandering around the house. There was a spider. There was a cheetah. That was great.
That's lots of fun. How about you, Sherry Lynn?
Well, I will be wearing a costume, but history has shown me that I spend all of Halloween night either carrying a child or carrying their candy. So I will be out. I will be out trick or treating in the deepest, darkest Greeley, where my grandchildren live, knocking on doors with them tonight, and I really am looking forward to it. It's always such a fun night out. Rain or shine.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find this Halloween is kind of emotional because of the way COVID kind of has played out. Avery is going to be 15 soon, so she's actually working at Saunders Farm tonight. She's helping other people celebrate Halloween, and we didn't really have that last Halloween. We didn't know, right, that it was going to be her last Halloween because of COVID, and I'm really emotional tonight. I can still see her like as a little gumball machine and, a little bunny and all of the little lion and all those costumes, right? And it's amazing how many of our childhood or parents' memories of kids are dressed up for Halloween. Would you agree, Alex?
Well, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, there was an event in Foster Farm. The community house there had, decorated their place with all kinds of wonderful Halloween exhibits, and the place was packed, absolutely packed. So that the appetite is there. And just in this election, just going around, you see the displays on people's lawns. I mean, some of them are just fantastic. So I think there's still an appetite for it. I think people want the escape because we've gone through some challenging times. And yes, let's do this. Let's have some fun.
And how about you, Sherilyn?
I was looking at some statistics this morning for some work that I was doing, and the sales of Halloween-related stuff is up almost, I think it was 28% over what was spent last year. But we still are not spending as much on Halloween as we did in pre-pandemic times. Right. So, there is still some restraint there. Or maybe we won't ever return back to that. Maybe that's relates back to our former subject about the inflation and price of things.
Absolutely. Appreciate you both joining us for this Halloween lunch. Sherry Lynn Starkey, social media expert and host of the 50 Women Over 50 podcast, and Alex Cullen, former city councillor. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
And it is Halloween. Happy Halloween to you as well.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you so much. It is Halloween. It is City News. We're coming back on the business lunch. Lock it in to Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
I'm Mallory, and I was walking home one night when an impaired driver hit me. He had been overserved in 2 bars before getting behind the wheel. If the servers would have called him a cab instead of serving him more alcohol, my life would be the same as what it used to be. I think servers play the biggest role in keeping us safe because it's up to them what state the person's in when they leave. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Little brown girl, hey, I'm Picasso Win Von Teef. I'm so happy to be involved with Encore Ottawa Season 3. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Monday, October 31st. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, 11 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it is 13. And here's what's making news this hour. There have been some testy exchanges as former Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slowly continues his testimony at the public inquiry investigating Ottawa's use of the Emergencies Act. Slowly is defending his actions and organization of his force during February's Freedom Convoy occupation of downtown Ottawa. Meanwhile, the Ottawa Police Services Board is set to meet this afternoon in one of the last meetings, which includes the outgoing members of City Council. Among the topics on the agenda, the financial statement for the department to the end of the third quarter, the Chief's report, and the Crime Stoppers annual report. This is the final meeting for the chair, Eli El-Shantiri, who did not offer for re-election and will step down from that post on November 17th. And the Ontario Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, is planning to introduce legislation today to avert a looming strike by support staff and impose a contract on them, which the union says it intends to fight. Stephen Lecce says the legislation is in response to the refusal by the Canadian Union of Public Employees, which represents about 55,000 education workers, to withdraw their intent to strike. QP is seeking several annual salary increases of 11.7%, and Lecce is set to introduce the legislation at 1 p.m. and hold a press conference an hour later. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. It is the business lunch. We have so many opportunities to connect with business owners and people that are connected to this community in a business way. We just started this business lunch a little bit, maybe 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, I think, right, yeah.
And we've been connecting with all sorts of business owners and getting to know. Today's a big business for Halloween, as we were talking about. Are you a big Halloween guy?
You know, I wasn't until I'd say a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, in my youth, I was never that big into Halloween. I always found the dressing up and stuff just a bit too tedious for me. I'm an imaginative guy. I like the spirit of Halloween. I never had the motivation. But as I've gotten older, and especially throughout the younger years in college and university, you kind of get dragged into dressing up, and I learned that it's just fun to escape for a bit, to have fun and to honestly just to pretend to be something else.
Absolutely. I've really noticed, I think, I was mentioning my daughter's now working at Saunders Farms. I think my vision of Halloween has changed so much, knowing that there's so much happening in the community tied to business and Halloween. There was a lot of Halloween parties this weekend, a lot of things happening in the community that involved the business side of Halloween, if you will.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And it's something I think you realize as you get older as well, is the commercialization behind Halloween is pretty large, just like Christmas. There's a lot to be done in terms of business-related things with Halloween, but on the other side of things, it also opens you up to, like you said, to how the community can be helped by small business and Halloween. And I've seen some stories recently come out of Ottawa. I don't know if you saw... the Saunders Farms, who we had on last week.
Right.
I saw that recently they brought in it was a kid who's been recently struggling with like a physical disability, and they gave him this personalized private tour that it looked absolutly incredible.
Amazing. Well, certainly when I'm picking up my daughter there every night, it is packed. They were overflow parking on the weekend, and school buses are out there taking people back and forth, and it certainly is incredible. And there's lots of little farms around, like Miller's Pumpkin Patch as well. Yeah. We normally go to Miller's, and I might buy some gingerbread cookies out there. They have got lots of great stuff out there. But all of these businesses that are around Halloween, and when Halloween ends, then of course we have Remembrance Day, and I think it's really important to not sort of do anything Christmas-wise between now and Remembrance Day, and really take
100%.
this time to focus obviously on veterans. We're going to be having Stephen Clark, the National Executive Director from the Royal Canadian Legion, join us tomorrow to talk about what's changed this year, which is all very positive for Remembrance Day. But then as soon as Remembrance Day is over, I don't know about you, but everyone seems to kick into Christmas
people
time.
Convert very quickly.
Absolutely. So Christmas time will be very busy for people in terms of buying and that kind of thing. But it's going to be interesting to see how the inflation rate and how a lot of families are struggling right now. This Christmas might look different. Yeah.
It's going to be a tough year, and with the new inflation rate that was released, not like you said, pretty recently, it's scary, I guess, at least for me, knowing that a lot of families are going to be struggling that much this year, and just with simple things like food on the table, not just presents, right? Just to host the holidays becomes a lot more of a challenge when prices are like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, I am not someone that likes to convert into the Christmas spirit right after November. I usually say the beginning of December.
That's what I'm
when
like
it's
too.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of look towards December 1st and kind of use the month of December. And this year will look a little bit differently for us because we have bought a new home and it's finally going to be ready.
I know, that's so exciting.
And speak about the business of things. Boy, oh boy, when you think about buying a brand new, especially a new build, you need everything from eaves trough to a new garage door opener to all of those things that you don't sort of think about. So we'll be doing things a little bit differently this Christmas. We'll probably be sitting on some boxes.
Yeah, the first holiday in a new house, I find it's like kind of christening the home into what you need out of it. So make sure you do give it some holiday spirit, so that so that it doesn't feel too empty.
We'll do something. We decided we've got this really skinny tree, so we decided that's the easiest one we're going to be able to do. So we're going to be spending lots of time today.
What are your thoughts on fake Christmas trees?
I have to do fake Christmas trees because I'm allergic to trees.
Oh no!
And honestly, every time I visit someone with a real Christmas tree, it's not pretty. My eyes flare up, and it's not. I feel like a bit grouchy, but I have to have a fake tree, unfortunately. How about you?
I usually prefer the real ones, but I'm actually in the same vein as you. In the last couple of years, I've noticed that the pine or whatever it is has been making my eyes swell up, and just as well the cleanup that is required after. So, now I just like the plastic. It wraps up very easy.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
It's easier to decorate too. So
a lot easier for sure. Well, this is the business lunch. We're going to be spending some time today with Douglas Lai. He's a wealth advisor at Scotia Wealth Management. We're going to be speaking with him. And then Amy Volume, Shea 106 midday host, is going to talk about all that Halloween stuff as well when we come back in a little bit. But, our times have changed a little bit. If you're listening right now, you're thinking, hey, I think things have changed up a little bit at City News. You would be absolutely right. Now you get to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning with the one and only Andrew Boyle. It's the first at 5, a veteran reporter here at City News. And then you can wake up with the one and only Rob Snow between 6 and 9. Such a great opportunity to learn the news of the day. Rob's got some great guests as well. And then David Smith. David Smith hosts the Talk Back Hour, and that's between 9 and 10. And then I zip in at 10 o'clock, and from 10 to 12, we do things like we used to do, of course, which is all of those great guests, bringing those local stories to you, some of those hard topics as well, heartwarming topics. We try to give you a little bit about what's happening in your community. And then from 12 to 12:30, you might have heard today, we do a little bit of the Lunch with Sam. We bring a couple of community business leaders in for a discussion about the news of the day. We talked today about everything from what's happening in terms of the Emergencies Act. We talk a little bit about the potential strike that will be happening this Friday. We're watching that very closely. We know that Minister Stephen Lecce has decided he may move forward with action that prevents them from striking. So we will be following that story very, very closely. And we know parents are sort of holding their breath. A lot of parents have been through so much in the last little while in terms of, having to keep kids at home and adjusting their work schedules. So nobody wants a strike, but we certainly want those education workers to get what they need as well. So this has been a very challenging time. We talked about lots of different things on the lunch today with Sam, and it's been a lot of fun. We're getting a lot of great feedback about that as well. So we look forward to having a business lunch with a lot of business leaders in our community. So if you have an idea for us as well, we'd love to have that and to have an opportunity to meet with you. We know I heard from Patty Taggart the other day. Patty is the owner of Tag-Along Toys here in Ottawa. It was so fun. Yeah, she was great. And she reached out to say, hey, people are walking in and saying they heard us on City News. So we know we want to profile some of those small businesses as well. So we're going to come back. We're going to spend some time today with Douglas Lai, Wealth Advisor at Scotia Wealth Management. Lock it in to Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Arcanta and I'm part of Encore Ottawa. My set will be coming out this week, so I hope you can watch it and enjoy it. Thank you.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, some people are looking at the markets and thinking it's a little bit spooky on this Halloween. We wanted to spend some time today with Douglas Lai, Wealth Advisor at Scotia Wealth Management. Hi, Douglas.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Great, Douglas. It's a pleasure to spend time with you. Let's talk a little bit about what people might be feeling as we're heading into the fourth quarter, or I guess we're in the fourth quarter right now. We're heading into 2023. How are people adjusting to all the changes in terms of their portfolios and we know inflation rate and interest rate are all high. What are you hearing from your clients, Douglas?
Yeah, it's a very unsettling period so far this year, right? I mean, it happens every day that I have questions or discussions with clients about an increased inflation rate. You know, you probably see it yourself that your grocery bill, clothing bills, especially, university education, we just rounded that corner in September. That's all been on the uphill swing, right? Let alone an uncertain economic backdrop. So it is a very unsettling period for a lot of folks that we're having very in-depth and discussions on a daily basis.
And let me ask you this: we all think about that, that word recession. I don't want to say it out loud for fear that it impacts the recession, but let's talk a little bit about what that would mean here in Canada.
Yeah. So, with respects to that impact, or that R word when it comes to recession, so it'd be inappropriate for me to speculate, when or to what extent that would happen. But to phrase it in another way, when we have those discussions with clients, and when I'm in a room, sitting next to a client, what I typically bring it back to is their financial plan and the importance of that financial plan. So we would typically recommend any of our clients have a financial plan established, which helps capture, on a broader basis, their financial circumstances, where they are today, where they want to go, and really what's important to them, and how to build that roadmap and strategy going forward so that we can see how different aspects in day-to-day real time might impact those goals over a long-term period.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because, people tell us obviously that, we've seen these challenges before in the 80s and the 90s, and but it's hard to also live through them again for many people. Is it a sense of, having faith in what you have done in terms of your investments and letting them ride, or are you looking at making some changes at this point?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be based on more of a customized approach to each client. So we certainly try not, for our purposes, not as much of a cookie-cutter approach. We really do build a customized financial plan and strategy for each individual client that we work with. So for our team in particular, and what might be a little unique, is we boil it down to a concept that we call your number. And what does that mean to us? It's really a dollar-specific, date-specific idea that says, what do you need, for example, at your retirement to be put away in your nest egg in order to be, to provide you that peace of mind going forward, so that you have financial security for the rest of your life. And so we position it as, okay, now we have a target. That's what we want to get to. And then that's where we kind of backtrack and, in a sense, reverse engineer to where do we stand today? How do we get to where we need to be?
Is that the number you would need on a monthly basis or annual, Douglas?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So with respects to how we capture someone's number, it's really going to actually be what do they need set aside in retirement funding, as an example, right? And so it captures what is important to them. So for a lot of folks, retirement's going to be the main milestone that they try to achieve, right? So we try to exert what is it that they want from month to month or year to year. What other, for example, income streams might they have to help support that, and what over and above that might they need from their portfolio to really supplement that income stream in their retirement.
And when you're thinking about all the different revenue streams that somebody might be, or income streams that somebody might be receiving, do you count on the money coming from the government? We've heard over the years that, that number may not be there for everybody. Is that something you take into account as well?
Yeah. With respect to any projections that I provide to clients, we typically steer towards the conservative end of things. So if it's not, for example, something that's guaranteed to occur or a little more uncertain, usually we might build a scenario that leaves that factor or that aspect out of the equation altogether. And then we can layer on different scenarios, call it almost like stress testing, to determine, okay, what's the optimistic scenario versus a more, again, conservative scenario overall. So there's many ways that we can kind of layer those factors in.
Because we know different people, Douglas, look at their retirement very differently. Some people say, hey, listen, I want to travel. Some people say, hey, I just want to, be close to home and be with the grandkids or whatever that looks like. So their lifestyle would be really, I'm assuming, you can tell me, a big part of determining this infamous number, if you will.
You've hit the nail head on, right? Where for each set of clients or individuals, what's important to them is something that is going to vary from person A to person B or Z, right? And so that's why we start with this planning process, and we try to decipher what is the number for each individual to make sure that we capture again what is going to be important to them, not only in the short term, but over the long term as well, right? So that's really, what our calling is, where we try to help folks in the Ottawa community, explore those options over the course of their financial lives. So
Douglas, I'm 51. Should I know my number by now?
Obviously, I'm going to have a biased opinion, but we typically try to go and delve through that exercise for most people. And I understand that this concept of finding your number or financial planning can be daunting, right? If we go back to the first point you're making about living in this economic uncertainty, it's a very uncomfortable feeling that I fully want to acknowledge, right? And so for some, going through this whole comprehensive plan can be a little overwhelming at times. So, there are scenarios where we try to build more of a high-level aspect and take baby steps into it, right? You might not know everything about everything 20 years off in your lifespan. That's okay. We try to capture things to the best of our ability, and then as we progress, we update that analysis throughout the course of a client's life.
Really appreciate your time today, and we're hoping that that number doesn't look spooky for people, right? So we're hoping they get in touch with you sooner than later. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, Sam. I really do appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Douglas Sly spending time with us today. Wealth advisor at Scotia Wealth Management, and it's certainly an important conversation to have. We know that, just even getting groceries or seeing that mortgage rate or putting any gas in your tank, that the number is definitely changing every day for how much money we need to live. But of course, we're going to live it big today because it is Halloween, and we wanted to spend time with the one and only Amy Volume today. She is with Shea 106. She's the midday host, and we get to kind of see each other across the newsroom, Amy, but I don't get a chance to chat with you in studio very often.
Thanks for having me on. This is like one of my favorite days to be in broadcasting.
It's so much fun, Halloween. Tell us how you're celebrating at Shea 106.
All right. So anybody that's tuned into my show for the last little bit, you'll know that I am completely obsessed with like ghost stories, UFO sighting. I'm a believer, so you do not have to twist my arm about any of that stuff. Okay. I've had my own experiences, but I think every Halloween I like to open it up to my listeners. So I share their ghost stories, their experiences that they know happen because they lived through it, but they could never logically explain it. So from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. all day on Shay, I'm sharing their stories.
Wow.
And they're chilling. Like a number of them are chilling. Sometimes I get a reaction of people who are listening going, that has happened to me, or I lived in that building and I had that too. So it's really cool. And
so interesting. Do you have one or two you want to share with us?
Okay, so one of the most recent ones that I've just shared on my show, because I am just across the hall from you guys, just like running in here, was from Sue, who Sue and her family took over an old farmhouse, and it always felt a little eerie, but an old farmhouse tends to do that. And she says, I've got 2 young kids who nicknamed our spirit Wilbert. Just Wilbert, anytime something funky happened, the kids would be, oh, it's just Wilbert. And the previous owner was over one day, and he heard a racket, and he said, what was that? And the kids went, oh, it's just Wilbert, no biggie. And he said, you must be joking. He's like, my uncle was named Wilbert, and he actually had passed in this house. Yeah.
Stop.
Yes. And they loved him. Sue says Wilbert, the spirit, whoever it may have been or whatever it may have been, would often help her out, like open the doors or create a breeze when she was carrying the laundry basket. So she says when we tore down the old farmhouse and built our new one, I cordially invited Wilbert to come with us. She said, but that was it. I never felt his presence again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have another one? Now I'm all into it.
Do I have another one on the? I get a lot of UFO sightings and stuff, which are always interesting to talk about because they always come from like Carp or Dunrobin or Woodlawn or like in that area. I don't know what it is. But it'll often just be like balls of fire in the sky that catch your attention, and you just think, no big deal, meteorite or whatever. Then all of a sudden, like a partner one will come, or they will move in tandem, or it'll just move in a really unnatural way. And it's neat because whenever I bring this up, somebody will be like, well, I saw that back in the 60s, or well, I saw something similar. So if anybody is missing the show today, if you want to catch up with me and my Halloween shows, your ghost stories dating back to 2018, you can just find me online at amyvolume.com because I save them all, even if they've been submitted via text or via email. I save the audio from the phone calls, and I save all of the text from those messages, and I share them because I just think something bigger is going on. But again, I'm a believer.
You're a believer. Well, that's fantastic. I love that. I love that so much. What's your favorite costume when you look back at being a kid, or maybe now? What's your favorite costume?
My favorite costume in recent Amy Volume party days, probably when I was schoolgirl Lydia Dietz from Beetlejuice. I had the big, full, like kind of almost like a poodle skirt thing that she would wear, and it was the visual from the last scene of that movie when they did the. Was it Harry Belafonte? Like shake, shake, shake. So I did that for a Halloween party one year, and it was so much fun. And bonus points because I still wear those clothes. So
there you go. Absolutely. Are the kids going out tonight?
Absolutely. My son is a Fortnite character. He doesn't even play for. He's not old enough for that, but he's all into the cartoony vibe. And my daughter's gonna be Miss JoJo Siwa.
Okay,
she's a little pop star. Yeah,
that's fantastic. It's gonna be great. We hope everybody stays nice and safe tonight. We want a nice spooky night and everybody to be able to go home and eat all that delicious candy. Do you have a favorite candy?
Just the chips.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah,
that's my weakness. That's my weakness. I never get them because my daughter won't let me. But she certainly will be having fun tonight. She's out at Saunders Farms working hard tonight. So she'll have a lot of fun. But we hope everybody has a great Halloween. And I want to thank our team today for putting together a great Halloween show. And of course, it's my dream job, but I want to welcome you to my nightmare on Halloween on City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and Community Views on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.